Hey everybody, it's Ruby and welcome to Road Life Hub. Today I'm filming outside the Grand Canyon. I'm camping with Jack and we're heading out on a big trip. Here's what I have for you this week. Last week I came across two stories that immediately caught my attention. The first was about a woman in the United States who made the decision to move into her Subaru. She wasn't unemployed. She wasn't fleeing some personal crisis. She had a good remote job. She simply reached a point where paying for traditional housing no longer made financial sense, so she chose a different path. The second story came from the United Kingdom. It focused on young people living in vans because housing prices had become so expensive that renting or buying a home in the community where they grew up was becoming impossible. Some of them described van life as freedom, others described it as necessity. For many, it was a little of both. As I was reading these articles, I couldn't help but think of my own story. At first glance, these three stories seem completely different. Different countries, different ages, different vehicles, different reasons. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized they all point towards something much bigger. I don't think the story is about people living in vehicles. I think the story is about people searching for a life that works. When the media covers vehicle life, the question is usually, why would someone choose to live in a car or a van? I think that's the wrong question. A better question is, why are so many different people from so many different backgrounds arriving at the same solution? That's a much more interesting conversation because there isn't just one answer. Some people are escaping impossible housing costs. Some are retired and stretching a fixed income. Some are living on Social Security or disability benefits. Some are seasonal workers following jobs across the country. Some work remotely and realize they can take their office with them. Some are recovering from divorce, job loss, or other major life changes. Some simply want more freedom, more travel, and fewer possessions. And yes, some families are raising their children while living in vans, RVs, buses, or even SUVs. Homeschooling, travel, and creating a lifestyle that works for them. That's a reality that surprises a lot of people, but it's becoming more common than many realize. The point is, these people don't all fit into one category. They're not all homeless, they're not all adventurers, and they're not all retirees, and they're certainly not all social media influencers chasing sunsets. There are people, and every one of them has a different story. When I first moved into my Kia Sorento, I honestly didn't know what to expect. I didn't know anyone else who lived this way, and I didn't even know Quartzsite existed. Like many people, I assumed vehicle living was something only a handful of adventurous people did. Then I started traveling. Over the past 2 years, I've driven through nearly every state in the continental US. Along the way, I've met people from all walks of life. I've met veterans, teachers, nurses, engineers, retirees, people receiving disability benefits, couples, singles, young adults, people in their 70s and 80s, people rebuilding after losing everything, and people who simply realized they were happier living with less. The longer I traveled, the harder it became to believe any stereotype. Because every time I thought I had vehicle life figured out, I'd meet someone whose story completely changed my perspective. That's one of the reasons I started Road Life Hub. Not because I think everyone should live in a vehicle, and certainly not because I think it's always easy. It isn't. Freedom comes with responsibility. You have to think about where you'll sleep, where you'll shower, how you'll receive mail, how you'll stay cool in the summer and warm in the winter, how you'll access health care, how you'll maintain your vehicle, how you'll stay connected with your community. Those are real challenges, but they're also challenges that can often be solved when people have access to good information and the right resources. That's where I believe a Road Life Hub can make a difference. Another thing these three stories have in common is that they remind us how quickly life can change. Very few people grow up saying, "One day I hope to live in a car." Life happens, housing costs surprise, jobs change, relationships end, health changes, retirement doesn't go exactly as planned. Sometimes people choose vehicle life, and sometimes vehicle life chooses them. Either way, they're still our neighbors, they're still members of our community, and they still deserve dignity and respect. One thing I've noticed is that many service providers genuinely want to help people living in vehicles. The challenge is that they don't often understand this lifestyle. At the same time, many vehicle residents assume service providers won't understand them. That creates a gap. And that's exactly the gap I'm hoping to help bridge. Because understanding starts with listening, not assuming, listening. A retired couple traveling in a Class A motorhome may need completely different resources than a young family homeschooling their children in a converted bus. The woman living in her Subaru while working remotely has different needs than someone escaping domestic violence. The veteran living in a pickup truck has a different story than the seasonal worker following harvest across the country. Different stories, different needs, but they all deserve to be seen as individuals. So when I read those two stories, I didn't see an American story or a British story. I saw a human story. People trying to solve the same problem in different ways. They're asking questions like, how do I build a life I can actually afford? How will I stay safe? How will I stay healthy? How do I remain independent? How do I find community? Those questions don't stop at national borders. They're becoming more and more common all over the world. If there's one thing I'd like people to take away from today's video is this. No single article, no documentary, no campground, no YouTube channel, not even this one, can tell the whole story of vehicle life. There are thousands upon thousands of stories, each one different, each one worthy of being heard. My hope is that Road Life Hub becomes a place where those stories help connect people instead of dividing them. Whether you're living in a vehicle, thinking about it, working for an organization that serves this community, or simply curious, you've come to the right place. Because understanding starts with conversation, and I think we're just getting started. Thanks for watching. See you down the road.